Hello, hello, hello. Dr. Allison J.K. here, and I want to help us all together release 2023. So I know that some of what I've been perceiving in this more increased spaciousness for me during this time where I'm more pulled back from active delivery of programs and sessions is that it is, okay, let me do it this way. You know how a couple of years back sound healing started to really come online and started to be something, and we started to see it in more and more places? And so this past year-ish, I've noticed that light therapy now has come on board more and more. There's more and more available infrared home light therapy, and not just infrared light therapy, but red light therapy, blue light therapy, not just used in beauty treatments as it has been for a long time, but now to help people with their mood. So all of this is that genre of helping, somewhat the genre of helping mental health and well-being, right? But it's more than that. It's this coming in of being more frequency oriented, and many of you already know that. So yet what I'm seeing in the change in the light from the solstice on, actually it was about from 12/12 on, is this increased frequency. The light is a higher frequency that I'm able to access. It's stronger, it's it's much more, it's faster. So I know that 2024 seems to me to be much more frequency based as we move more into our new era. And so what does that mean? Well, you can access more higher frequencies and higher light. Obviously, the less density towards the old you're carrying around. So I know that in my Magic Manifestation and Money Flow program, I sometimes do this ceremony, and I want to offer it up with you guys. So you know how when you're looking at like a campfire, you can see what's called the dragon trails. They look like the flames can sometimes look like dragons. So I want to invite you to throw into the fire with me. If you visualize or just know energetically that I've invoked flames of transmutation with many, many helpers. One of the things I'd like to throw into the fire, and this is typically done after there's been a lot of clearing and folks in the program are about to reach threshold. So you might want to keep that in mind as you do this. Maybe listen to some of the clearings and activations you have for me, and then come back and listen to this video. If you don't have clearings and activations from me, there are some free ones on the channel. There's a whole playlist dedicated to them. And so I noticed my movement. So it's started, the energy started for release. And you know what's interesting too is that goes back and forth. I do this when I'm in front of the general public more, when it's not people who have been vetted and are working in a group cohesion with me, whether it's in Magic Manifestation or Money Flow, or even higher up to Vibrational Upgrade Mastermind. I do this when I'm with the folks in my first tier program, Activate Your Magic, as well. So I've been doing this for about 1.5 years now-ish, where my body starts to help me with this movement. It just starts when the clearing mode begins for, I don't know how much clearing you've done or not done. I don't know what you're coming to this video carrying, having experienced. And before we release, I want to continue to talk as you guys continue to attune and align with these energies that have the frequencies that have now, and energies that have now started to, I don't even know what the difference of frequencies, energy is a whole umbrella term. Frequencies are a part of what is a way we measure energy. Okay. So one of the experiences that I had recently was a guy telling me about how during COVID, his daughter, who was a nurse, was so overwhelmed that they being apparently her doctors, put her on antipsychotic meds, and ultimately she took her own life. And this woman was so stressed out from caring for others during COVID, and it just really hurt my heart for him. And he was struggling. It was, I think it was, if not, I think it was his second year without her, and he's helping with her 9-year-old. And it just, the suffering that he talked about, I just gifted him this unexpected financial gift to help him have a better Christmas so he could buy stuff for his grandkids. And it was really lovely feeling. And so that feeling of, I know that many of you already have this, we're all in this together. But I also know that on the spiritual path, or in not my vibrational upgrade community, because it's absolutely not cultivated, but in other spiritual communities, there can be the farce of being, supportive of each other, but then there's the competition. Well, look at how far that person's gotten. Look at how far that person's gotten. And if you do that in the vibrational upgrade community, they're meant to be inspirations. Whenever somebody gets like a really great breakthrough, it's historical that I ask them, instead of it being like a testimonial, even though that's what people use for the term, it's actually showing you what else is possible. Because if somebody has been able to do it, obviously then that's possible. So what I'm getting at is that the sense of competition, releasing that into the fire, that has been a part of the capitalistic model, and on social media, like the Instagram comparisons, when you compare yourself to somebody else, throwing that into the fire of what we're releasing for 2023, and throwing into the fire all the suffering and the grief that humanity has been through in the last, not just this year, but in the last couple of years, because we're no longer in that era of 2012 to 2032. We're no longer in, I know that there's been an increased amount of deaths this year, more than normal across the planet. And that's a certain shakeout that seems like has been a part of, as we round the bend from the clearing purging decade into the building decade of our new era. Yeah, so I really would like to release into the fire the holding that all of us have done in some way or another, absorbed from what's out there, of the mass suffering that's been happening with the wars, with the illnesses, the increased death, the grief, the perception of it's harder to be happy by some, the anxiousness, the not feeling safe, all of that I want to throw into the fire on behalf of any of you who have any of those feelings, or your loved ones, or people you know of, and collectively. Speaking of collectively, another thing I'd like to throw into the fire for releasing 2023 is, it's a really cool thing. Those of you who've heard the vibrational upgrade clearing statement, when I say, when I go into the clearing of the conditioning, and a lot of the times I'll say from the trance of the masses. This last year, in the last 6 months or so, I've noticed that there's not so much ping of resistance from the collective. There's not so much gusto when I claim that in the list of things that are cleared when I do a clearing before we move into the activation. It doesn't have the same density it once did. So the collective is coming along. So the sense of like, oh, those people who just don't get it, I've been doing this for so long, and those people don't get it, like where you've had to, so I'd like to throw that into the fire, and then also where you've had to rebel in order to be who you are. Some of you haven't had to do that because those of us have paved the way ahead, yeah? So that now it's a spiritual industry, now it's a spiritual awakening, now it's trendy. Yeah, so I'd like to throw into the fire any remnants of being in the spiritual closet, any remnants of force, pushing, resistance, rebelling for rebelliousness' sake. Any of that dynamic, we are moving into such new times. That's why I started the video talking about frequencies. So I invite you, as I hold, wait, one more thing. I don't typically give nutritional advice from my tonic herbalism training and nutritionist, sports nutrition training for longevity, but I do want to give this one because it's part of the release. I highly recommend, due to the toxicity of what has happened on the planet in the last couple of years, I'm not talking about the soil depletion or degradation and becoming a vegetarian, which I did in the early 90s. I'm talking about some of the more toxins that are kind of recent. When I was in India for my yoga teacher training, I went to one of the biggest night market in Goa, and it's really well known. And I met somebody from Russia who had helped with the Chernobyl cleanup. And one of the things that they turned me on to are zeolites. And this is the brand actually that they turned me on to. I don't get anything if you buy from here. I'm not promoting it like that, a brand ambassador or anything like that. And I know also spirulina helps remove heavy metals as well. It's a really good remover of heavy metals. But the zeolite gets to a level of toxicity that I perceive intuitively from having used spirulina since I've been 19, and all of the research I've done nutritionally, is the zeolite is able to get to a level of toxicity that feels appropriate to some of the toxicity that's been released over the last couple of years. And I invite you now to throw into the fire something emotional, because under this full moon, we were gifted this beautiful full moon as we gear up into 2024, New Year's, one that really helps us with our emotional body and really uplifting our emotional body by releasing. So crackling into the fire. I throw suppression of joy into the fire. I throw a hyper focus on suffering, which is a predisposition of the ego mind, into the fire. I throw the hyper focus on problems into the fire. You can feel free to do the same. And know that it's getting carried away, taken away, burned up, and transmuted into energy that can help. Okay. Gotta run. See you soon.